I'm going to start with an anecdote. I'm going to share something that happened several years ago, almost 3 decades ago. And just lately I've been reflecting on it and trying to see if I can come up with a solution. Maybe I do know the solution, or I'm more looking at implementing the solution, I suppose. So the story is that 30 some years ago, when I used to live in the US, and normally there we have liners for our rubbish bins, plastic, obviously, plastic liners, and it was not a custom here in India. So when I used to visit my in-laws especially, and they used to have a rubbish bin with no liner in it, and I thought I'm trying to be very clean and more sophisticated, so I kind of suggested to them, why don't you use a liner? It's less messy, it's cleaner, and you can pick up the rubbish and not have to mess with it, and don't have to touch it, and things like that. So I kind of brought that into into that family culture, and I've been reflecting on it lately. I brought it in. As usual, they would take the rubbish. Earlier, they used to take the rubbish and dump it outside the parapet wall. Now they take the rubbish in the plastic bag and they dump it outside the parapet wall. So I actually contributed to ruining the environment. I didn't necessarily help in cleaning the environment. I was not aware of it then as to what kind of damage I was causing. And I've been thinking about it quite a bit lately and trying to find ways in which I can rectify that. And we all know how we can rectify it. However, implementation is the biggest challenge that I'm facing. The constant awareness and then bringing that awareness into practice is where the struggle is. So there's been a lot of discussion lately on plastic. There's been a lot of discussion on the impact of plastic on the Mother Earth. The lot of discussion or discourses happening on how it's affecting our climate. I think it's important for us to understand that we are no different from our environment. A philosopher by the name Alan Watts, he once said, "You didn't come into the world, you came out of it." In other words, we are part of that world. As we come out of a mother's womb, we are in many ways a part of our mother. There is something about the mother that is part of us. So we're all one in a way. We can understand that up to our parents and our grandparents, and that's probably how far it goes, maybe of ancestors. But what we truly are is everything that is around us. We are what we are surrounded by. We are part of that environment, and we therefore have to take extreme caution, extreme measures, extreme care in safeguarding that environment. And I think we don't do enough. We are so much into consumerism, so much into satisfying immediate needs or fulfilling our own desires to the point where we only think about, we are actually abusing ourselves. We are abusing not just the people around us, but also the physical environment that we are in. That physical environment is basically what we are made up of. We are made up of the elements that this physical environment is made up of, and therefore we are that. And that oneness that each one of us, if we are able to experience, we will also be able to experience the pain that the environment is enduring because of us. And we are enduring, as we are contributing to the pain, and we are enduring it ourselves, and we are making sure that our children and our grandchildren and whoever else that's going to come after us are also going to be you know, experiencing the same, and hopefully they will learn from our mistakes, and hopefully they will do a better job than we have ever done in our lives. And it's high time we learned to recognize the problem. High time we learn to see the oneness of who we are and who the surrounding is and what it is, whether it is a plant, whether it is a piece of metal, whether it is, air that we breathe, whether it is the water we drink. Whatever the landscape we are in is us, and that oneness is something we need to cherish and we need to care for. There are a lot of new terminologies that has been thrown out in the scientific literature. One of the things that I came across, actually a couple of things. One is called ecological grief. Ecological grief is talking about mourning, about grieving about a changing planet. The planet that we are in, the environment that we are in, is constantly changing, and changing not for the better, sadly. And that grief that you experience, I'm sure all of you have driven past a street or an area that you have been, about 30, 40, 50 years ago, and it was all nice, green and lush, and today it's full of concrete. You don't have to go too far to experience that. I mean, I'm reminded of North Carolina, when a place called Chapel Hill. There's actually 3 little cities in center. There's the Research Triangle Park. When I lived there some 2-3 decades ago, there was a rule that buildings shouldn't be high enough that we can see it above the canopy. So when you look down from the sky onto that area, all you see is a nice green lush canopy, and it's a beautiful place, absolutely beautiful place. And if the building owners needed to make more room, they only had to dig further down, they couldn't go up. So they were quite conscious of the beauty around there and the environment that they were living in, and they wanted to maintain it. But lately I understand it is not the same. There is so much of, even when I was there, they were cutting down trees. They didn't want to build above the canopy, but they were cutting the trees down so that you can accommodate more people coming in, you could accommodate with more, basically urbanization. So is it right, wrong? What is the solution? Something we all can explore. But the point is that when that happened, when those trees were cutting down, the grief that you felt, the pain that you felt, that is what ecological grief is talking about. And that is the pain not only we feel, it is also we are ruining the ecosystem, we are ruining the habitat of so many organisms, the biodiversity in that area, and each one of those entities feel that grief, feel that ecological grief, as they term it. There's another nice, interesting concept that I came across, which is solastalgia, or kind of like nostalgia. They refer to it as solastalgia. Again, it has to do with desolate. It's a loss of the landscape. The idea is something that you have cherished over the years, and you've lost it. That landscape is lost. You're not going to get it back again, and all you see is buildings and structures of steel and metal and concrete there. And is it, there is no replacement. So these are all concepts that have come up, and we're realizing that we are damaging the environment, and the climate is changing to the point where things are going to go really, really bad for the current generation and also for the future generations. In Tirukkural, there is a couplet where I'm not going to state the whole couplet, I'm just going to give you the essence of it. Basically, he's saying, Van Indri Illai Orukku, meaning without rain, there is no discipline. Meaning, in other words, there is no rain, there is no discipline. In other words, we need rain, we need that environment where you can actually produce that rain. And if there's not enough rain, where there's drought, basically people are going to be fighting People are going to be fighting for resources. People are going to go into a very anxious state of mind, and that basically results in unruliness and results in lack of discipline in society. It's basically affecting the mental health of those individuals that live there. Okay, it's going to impact their physical health, and physical health in turn is impacting the mental health of those individuals. There's a term that they use now called eco-anxiety. In other words, they're anxious of what's going to happen to this environment, what's going to happen to you and me, because we are part of that environment. We are nothing but that environment. When we dump junk that is not going to be helpful for us, we are actually hurting ourselves. And I think it's high time we realize that. High time we recognize it and do something about it. And we are thinking we are flourishing in an environment where we are satisfying our needs, satisfying our desires, and we are so-called happy. But what we really are doing is we are setting stage for languishing. In positive psychology, they talk about flourishing and languishing, where what we are really doing is, we're creating our environment in such a way that most people are going to be languishing rather than flourishing in that environment. So we need to take responsibility. We need to make sure that there is hope for this Mother Earth, that there is reasons for us to change, and we need to take that first step towards making that change. Thank you.